Hi everyone, welcome back to Young and Wifed Up. This is Marcella.
And I'm Gabby.
And thanks for joining us this week for another episode.
If you aren't already, please consider joining our Facebook group. It's called Young and Wifed Up, and I have the link in our episode description. It's a community of other listeners, wives and moms like you, and we talk about things pertaining to the podcast. We have prayer request threads. We even have self-promotion threads. And any announcement regarding the podcast, you can get there first. So head to our Facebook group link if you want to join.
Also, if you would like to support us in another way, joining our Patreon is a great way to do this. If you want to support good Christian media, we would love to have you over there. There's lots of bonus content, episodes, blog posts, digital products. I'm trying to think what else. Oh, with our highest tier, we also have video chats once a month, which is always great to connect with the girls that are there. So obviously, we highly recommend you going over there and getting all of the extra content. If you can't get enough here, we're not uploading enough for you fast enough. That is a really great way. And also, if you sign up, you also get the backlog of everything that we've uploaded on our Patreon. So you will just have hours upon hours and hours of extra content to listen to. So hopefully we will see some of you guys over there as well.
Awesome. So last week we did part 1 of our personal and family rhythms, where we talk about habits and routines and things that we do in our morning routine, our cleaning routines, our exercise routines, and we're going to continue on with our rhythms today. So right now I'm just going to jump straight into it. We're going to talk about our weekly commitments, things that we have to kind of work around our schedule so that we can have our commitments. So the first thing is something that happens every single week without fail, and it is the Lord's Day. The Lord's Day is every Sunday, and we have had a couple episodes about the Lord's Day. The first one is called Preparing for the Sabbath, and that is on our main podcast. And then I also have a Patreon blog called Making the Sabbath a Delight, where I give recommendations for things to do yourself and with your family and children to make the Lord's Day more sweet. And so the Lord's Day is something that we spend basically most of our day at church. And if we're not at church, we are fellowshipping with other Christians, or we are spending time being edified by things at home, like Christian media, reading good Christian books, and spending time resting and enjoying God's creation. So it is a special day. Oh, I forgot that we also mention it in our holidays episode. We actually go into pretty depth in it. I can't remember what the holidays episode is called. Do you remember? Oh my goodness. Well,
no, I don't. I forgot we even did that episode.
Well, this is what happens when you're on episode 119. You're like, what did we do with you? It's like
2.5 years ago. I don't even remember when it was.
They're going to be like, girl, I remember that episode and it was crazy. But you can easily find it by searching on our backlog of stuff. But we talk about the Lord's Day in depth and why it's special and why it's a holiday every single week. And another thing that we have that's a commitment regarding our church is we do Wednesday night prayer meetings, and it's pretty casual. We do it at somebody's house. It's either our deacon's house or our elder's house in town, and our church is kind of spread out. So we have 2 different prayer meetings for different regions. So the people on the north side of Vegas, they have their own prayer meeting on Monday nights, and then we have our prayer meetings in Henderson on Wednesday nights, and it's always a blessing. It's always edifying. It's a chance to build closer relationships with the people in our church, and especially the people that live in our town, and kind of like a little community. And we help each other, pray for each other. We give prayer requests, and we fellowship for a little bit afterwards. And that's something that we look forward to every Wednesday. And having something in the middle of the week with our church family is really nice, because sometimes during the week it could feel kind of isolated. You could feel kind of disconnected, especially if you go to a church where you're a commuter church, where people come from all over. Like, we have a family that drives 2.5 hours away, and we have another couple that drives an hour and a half away to go to church. So we are very spread out. And so having something in the middle of the week kind of tethers us together, and it's really nice, and it's something that we look forward to. So usually when we have prayer meetings on Wednesday, it's at 6. So I tend to prep and start dinner earlier that day, and I also try to do something more pared down and simple. So I revolve a lot of my routines and weeks around Sundays, Lord's Day, and Wednesday prayer meetings. And then, like I said, a lot of our social life revolves around our church, a lot of our friends from church. And we also make an effort to get together with my brother on like a bi-weekly basis. So that is honestly like the extent of my social life, is seeing my brother who lives out here right now, and seeing my church family. That's basically my social life. And
Wow.
then, yes. And then other weekly commitments, my shopping day is typically on Tuesdays. Mondays are usually like more chill, because Sundays are super jam packed with like church stuff. So Mondays I try to keep very low key, and I don't do like a whole lot of big errands that day. So Tuesdays are usually my grocery day. And then I usually do a smaller grocery shop Friday or Saturday for the weekend, especially if we have a fellowship meal. Sometimes we don't know like what the theme is or what's going on. And so I usually like wait till the day before to figure out what I'm going to bring. And then we do, it's not every Saturday, but I think it's like every third Saturday we go and pick up our milk that I can't get at the grocery store, if you catch my drift. Um, we do that every 3 weeks, and that's always on a Saturday. And it's like only a certain time that we can, like, it's like an appointment that we have to go to get the milk. And usually when we go do that, we try to do things like other errands out when we do that. So that's like our usual like weekly commitments and regular commitments that we have. What about you?
So, same as you, we have church on the Lord's Day, and usually we're there until the late afternoon time. So that's always nice, because it's kind of the same with our church. Like, we have a lot of families just in so many different directions.
Hmm.
And so people are coming, sometimes from like 45 minutes away from church. And so there isn't a lot of freedom to see people during the week and like
Hmm.
fellowship with them. So Sundays is nice because we can see everybody, and obviously because it's the Lord's Day, we get to worship together and all that. So, and then let's see, Monday mornings, we are part of a milk co-op. So we go to the Amish farms, which are about 35 minutes away from us. And we rotate through all of us driving each week. So Monday mornings, I'm either driving for the milk co-op to go pick up everybody's milk, and I also get eggs from them as well. Or I'm waiting for someone else to get back with my milk and eggs so that I can go get it. So yeah, that kind of leaves our Monday mornings not super free, because I'm usually having to like wait around for people to get back, or I'm having to go and drive myself, and that is usually like a hour and a half ordeal,
So worth it for the price that you
sometimes
pay,
longer.
man.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's I will not tell you what it is, but
I it Let's just say that mine is 4 times as expensive as yours.
We get a smashing deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
The Amish really hook us up.
Yeah, they do.
Anyway, and then and then on Jed's days off, we're usually running errands like as a whole family. Sometimes if we're going out, like I mentioned in the last episode, sometimes we're going to like Trader Joe's or Costco, which is a bit further away. I wouldn't say it's like one of our local grocery stores. But we have family out there, and so sometimes we'll go and visit them when we're already out in the area. But yeah, usually it's like grocery shopping or we're having to go look for new clothes for the kids or furniture or whatever it may be. And then on the days that Jed works, I like to keep my focus at home. And I found that having too many time commitments during the week with this many little ones makes for really cranky kids. So I try to strategically plan that the days that are more loose with the routine are it's either the Lord's Day because everybody be skipping naps on the
Yeah,
Lord's
that's how it is at our church too. There is no
it's
nap time or they're sleeping during service.
yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not a normal routine for anybody by any means. So that's one of the days where it's like I know Sunday for sure is always going to be just
Mhm.
schedule
Chaos.
gets thrown out the window. But I mean the kids have acclimated, like they're just used to
Yeah,
Sundays being that
they're just
like that.
different. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. And then the days that Jed has off, usually those are also kind of loose too with the routines because if we're wanting to go out and do things as a family, if the weather is nice, sometimes we'll go and visit my parents, which their place is a little bit of a drive usually, and we do lots of outdoor things with them. Schedules usually get thrown out the window a bit on those days too. So the days
Mhm.
that he does work, I'm like, we need to stay home, reset, and I feel like it really helps everybody's attitudes.
Word.
I think just generally, and for me too, because I feel like you can't expect to get things done at home when you're never home.
Mm.
And so I've never been the kind of mom who's been like, I have to get out of that house every single day with the kids.
Mhm.
And I just don't find that's great for anybody in the family. I think maybe that works for some people, but I just find I get too far behind on things and it kind of makes for something too unreliable for the kids. And, my husband is expecting for me to be working at home.
Mhm.
That's kind of the whole
That's what
point.
he's
And
paying you
so,
for.
yeah, exactly. Um, but it's like I have to get things done at home and I can't do that if I'm not at home at all during the
Word.
week. And obviously there are like, there are some weeks where we're gone more often than usual. But for the most part, the days that he does work, I try to keep my focus there as much as
Mhm.
possible, making food, the cleaning, all of the things we talked about last week as far as, all of that stuff. So,
Cool.
um yeah.
Any other weekly commitments, or is that basically
No, that's kind of it. I mean,
yeah.
it kind of I feel like that's been mainly what it has been. There was a while where I would have maybe like a weekly some kind of social commitment as like if we're doing wild and free groups, which
Mhm.
we haven't done in a really long time. And those were like on a weekly basis. But yeah, we're not even doing that right now. I don't even know if there's one going at the moment because we haven't been in so long. I don't think so.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty much what it's
You and
been.
I are very boring. We're like, "We're at home, and we're at
Which is
home,
crazy
and we're
because
at church."
I feel like when it comes to things that are like planned every single week, there's like hardly anything. But then my week feels so packed with stuff.
Yes.
And I'm like busy all the time.
Okay,
You're
dude,
like,
how did we do
when?
this and have jobs outside of the home? I literally don't know how I did it. Like, of course, like my capacity has changed and I have a lot more like sourdough and I have a lot more new things that I added on my plate for the home. But I genuinely am like, how did I stay afloat? I don't think I
Oh,
did.
I know how. We were eating out more often.
That's true. Yeah.
Probably not eating as much from scratch.
Hmm.
Um, and also if you're gone more, the house does not get super dirty. Like it doesn't,
Honestly, that's true.
you know what I
That's so
mean?
true. Yeah, because we're living in the house and working in the house, it gets dirty more.
Exactly. So then you're having to like clean. It's like this vicious cycle. But it's
It's
good.
okay.
It's like
It's a
it's good
cycle
work.
I embrace.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Speaking about cycles, I don't know how that even was a transition. It's not even a transition. So our current family
Oh, I thought
worship
you were gonna
routines,
go into
I do have a cycle routine on the Patreon.
wow, you do.
Yeah,
So
it's called Supporting My Body During Menstruation or something like that. I think it's a blog or a bonus episode. I can't remember. There's so much stuff on there, you
yeah,
guys. I can't even remember
sick.
half the stuff we did, but it's there. Okay. Current family worship routine. So we have an entire main episode you can find wherever you're listening to this on family worship, what it is, why we think people should be doing it, why we should be encouraging our husbands in it. We have a whole what, why, how, and when episode, and it's lengthy and in depth, but we're going to talk about our current routines that we have as families. So, usually we do family worship after dinner and after dinner cleanup. And it's only about 15 minutes. Very rarely does it go past 15 minutes. Sometimes when it goes past 15 minutes, it's because somebody's staying with us and we're like inviting others to do it with us, because when we have people stay with us, we typically do family worship with them too. We just incorporate them into it. So our current routine is we sing a portion of a psalm and we have been working through the Psalter. We're just using like the 1650. I think we use the one that Sermon Audio produced, which is really cool. Very, very cool. And we are on Psalm like 90 something. We're in the 90s now, which is crazy. And then we sing a portion, usually only like 6 to 8 verses we'll sing. And then we usually, Ryan will pray for us to understand the passage that we're reading. And then we read a chapter of scripture together. Usually both of us will read. We'll like take turns reading so many verses. And we're currently going through the book of Revelation and we're going through the minor prophets right now. And we switch off, like every night we switch off Old and New Testament. So we kind of mix it up. And then we usually either discuss the passage briefly, or we also use Joel Beakey's Family Worship Helps. He has a book called, oh my goodness, you have it. It's something for family worship. The family something. What's it called?
The
Have
family
it. It's on your
worship.
bookshelf.
I know, where is it? Wait, seriously, where is it?
It's like the family worship guide.
It's Family Worship Bible Guide. Oh wait, wow, it's literally in front of me. Yeah,
Wow,
Family
cool.
Worship Bible Guide.
Awesome.
It's
So
blue.
yeah,
It's blue.
cool. Yeah, so you can find that on Reform Heritage Books and also you can find that on Amazon. That is a really amazing resource because it's bite-sized explanations and applications of different passages of scripture. And Ryan, so we do have the Family Worship Guide book, but then we also, one of Ryan's Bibles has it in the Bible. which is cool. So sometimes we don't even need to have the extra book. We just like read it out of his Bible. So that's nice. Helps us to apply what we've read. And sometimes when we're going through like certain books of the Bible and I'm like, how are we like I'm not a pastor. Ryan's not a pastor. How are we gonna exposit this and apply this right now? But Joel Beakey helped us out, man, and he gave us an application. It's awesome. And then usually after that we take turns. So like every other night, Ryan will pray for all of our needs and any prayer requests. And then on the every other night, I'll pray. Sometimes, usually when we have people staying with us, he'll basically do everything. And then we'll like make people read with us, like read out loud. We'll be like, all right, you're going to take 5 verses, right? But Ryan will usually like do all the praying if we have people staying with us. And then if it's just the 2 of us, him and I will like switch off who prays that night. So yeah, it's like our current family worship routine and it's really reliable. And there have been seasons where we did not have a good habit of it and it was really hard. But right now we've been on a good streak for a long time where we maybe miss a night every once in a while. And then we both realize like, oh, we missed it. And our pastor went crazy hard on Sunday in his sermon about family worship. So all of us in our church are like feeling like not stressed, but
feeling the heat.
the conviction of the
Yeah.
importance of coming together as a family and specifically fathers leading their families in daily worship of the Lord. So what are you guys doing right now?
Okay, so usually what our family worship routine is Jed will go through children's catechisms with the 2 older boys and like super basic ones with our youngest who is 1. So like, who made you? And you point up. You know, he doesn't talk. I mean, he does, but it's like nothing coherent
Nothing.
quite yet. Anyway, lots of sign language and it still works. So usually we'll pull from Milk for Little Ones and also the Westminster Shorter Catechism. And our church every week has a different
Question.
catechism, question that they go through. And so we'll usually pick the one that our church is going through and go through that one with the older boys. And then Jed will read through a chapter of the Child's Story Bible by Catherine Voss, which Gabby and Ryan actually gifted to us. I don't know, it's like
Years ago.
3 years ago or something like that.
It's like
maybe
our
longer.
favorite gift to give family. It's like we've probably bought 5 or 6 copies. We have our own copy. We don't even have kids. It's
Yeah,
like so much.
It's honestly a really solid resource. I always recommend it to people as well. And then our pastor also puts together a home devotional nearly every week, which also includes a memory verse that sometimes Jed will also go over as well. And then we'll do like prayer requests and prayer to close out. And then I would say like 75% of the time we will have the boys recite the Lord's Prayer. Seth can do it mostly on his own. I'm pretty sure. We haven't had them do it in a little bit. And then Eli, it's a lot of repeat after me, and then we'll do like phrase by phrase with him.
So cute.
And then in the past, we haven't in a little while, but we have also utilized the book you were talking about, Joel Beakey's Family Worship Bible Guide. And we really enjoy that too. And I think that was also helpful for Jed, going through passages. He would read whatever the passage was for that day that's marked and then read the devotional for it or the little section, instead of having to try to come up with your own thing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to mention something that was like, I don't know, it was just kind of funny to me. So we were over at one of our elders' homes, and this was like a couple weeks ago, and all of his kids are pretty much grown. Like his youngest is in high school and the rest of them are adults. And when we were over, we went and we did family worship, with both of our families together while we were there. And it was so funny because he like finished up, the passage that he was going through, and I think he was utilizing one of our pastors like home devotionals. And he kind of got a little bit stumped. I'm totally outing him right now. You have no idea who I'm talking about, but I do. And because it's like it's so hard sometimes to simplify to children concepts in the Bible, and spiritual concepts in a way that's like truth, but
Right.
also easy enough for them to understand. And so he was just like he got kind of stumped a little bit. He was like, "Man," he's like, "I haven't done this in a long time, you guys." Like, "All of my kids have been grown for so long." He was like, I think it, like, was sort of a reality check for him of just, like, how difficult sometimes it can be with family worship to, get your explanations correct.
Mhm.
Because I feel like we can, like, oversimplify things to the point where now it's not really true, like, what you're saying, and so it was just funny. And it's so funny because he's, like, all the time interacting with we have so many young families in our church, just interacting with the children all the time, and, it was just, like, that one moment he just, like, had this moment of, like, realization, like, this is a lot harder to sometimes it's harder to simplify these
Mhm.
biblical concepts than it is to just give it outright,
Mhm.
in all of the theological terms that you can.
Yeah,
Yep. And
that's
so,
so sweet.
yeah, it was just so funny to me, and he was like, "I'm gonna be praying for you guys more," and, like, all of the young families, just like it was like, he did it for so long with all of his kids when they were super young, but then as they grow up, it's like you can just say things so plainly,
Mhm.
um,
Mhm.
and so it was I don't know, it was just really funny, and I think that's really where, like, the family worship Bible guides and things like that, even, like, the Child's Story Bible, can be really helpful,
Yes,
when it comes to doing family worship with a lot of little kids, so, yeah, it just made me think of that, it
that's
was
so
just
sweet.
a funny moment, yeah,
I
it
love
was really
it.
sweet.
I love it. Okay, so other family rhythms that we have in regards to nourishing our marriage or things that we do with the kids, stuff like that. So, for Ryan and I, we have gone through because okay, our situation is unique because like I said before in last week's episode, he works from home. And so we see each other all day, but we struggle with being able to fit in intentional time together because I think it's harder for us because we're with each other technically, physically all day. It's harder for us to spend real time together. I can't really explain. I don't know how to explain that. He's not like mentally with me when because he's working, you know? And then we go through our night and then we're like, okay, well, good night. It's just like it. And so we have brought back, which there was a season before I had my flare ups and before the miscarriage and everything that we were doing something called a 3 hour night. I have a bonus episode about it if you want to listen to that. And essentially, it helps us break up our evenings into three parts where we can rely on being able to spend at least 1 hour intentionally together every night that we're home. And it's usually like a weeknight. Like on the weekends, it's different, but I'd say like 3 or 4 times a week, we're able to do this 3 hour night routine. And we had it down for a while when I first started implementing it. And then we just had a lot of chaos and heartbreak happen in our lives. And now, after I've come out of my tonsillectomy recovery and I haven't had a TMJD flare up in a while, we decided this week actually to bring it back. And we're so happy to have it back. It feels so good to have something that we can rely on our evenings. So I'll go into more what that actually looks like in our evening routine, which we're going to talk about next. But a 3-hour night is really how we keep intentional time together going. And then we also try to do a date night out, probably every other week, every couple weeks. It's not every week. When I was working more and we had more like disposable income, we would go out probably once a week and like go out to eat and like have a whole thing. But we rarely do that now. We do a lot more date nights at home, movie at home, and me cook a nice meal at home. And then very rarely we'll go out to like a date, and go spend some money on dinner and stuff like that. And then I'd like to bring back, which we have done several times in our marriage. We've had seasons where we were doing this, is marriage meetings where we used to have either weekly or monthly meetings, like we make it real official, where we check in about our finances and budget, how our communication is going, if we have any conflicts that haven't been resolved that we need to resolve, any upcoming plans, just like a time to like connect and really get into the logistics of our marriage. And because it's interesting with our finances now, we have such a rhythm and our budget is so reliable now that we don't necessarily need to like have these big meetings when before our income was so up and down depending on how much I was working. We were trying to figure out what to do with my income and his income and who's going to pay this bill and that bill and what are we going to allot this income for. But now everything is more streamlined. Ryan has really honed in on his budgeting and it's very reliable. It's something that we can count on. And so when we have our financial meetings now, it's maybe like once a month, once every couple months. And it's usually when we're either planning for a trip that we need to budget for and allot money for, take from savings or figure something out, or we have big expenses that we are anticipating, like medical bills and stuff like that, trying to figure out how to do that. Or the most recent one that we had was budgeting for gifts for people for the end of the year. So we kind of have regular talks about it now and they're less formal, but I would like to bring back more formal things just so that I can have more understanding about where we're at and what our goals are. How are we doing on our savings? How are we doing on our any debt that we have? Like, do we have any bills that we need to pay down? Anything like that. So yeah, that's basically things that we do in our little family of two that keep our marriage going, that we can rely on and spend intentional time together, and also to keep the logistics, like the partnership side of our marriage down, the stuff that is like keeps the family going, keeps the house going. What about you?
Okay, so date nights for us are pretty few and far between as well. Like maybe once, if we're lucky, twice a month. Like it really depends on the season of life. Like sometimes we'll go through a stint of like not going on dates for a really long time. And then we'll be like, man, we really need to like try to be better about like intentionally planning. And then we'll have a stint of like going on dates all the time. And then it goes up and down. I feel like it hasn't been super consistent for a long time just because things will happen with the kids, people get sick, or your babysitter wasn't able to come. Like just
Yeah.
so many things happen. So um we do try to make a point to do something like recreational as a family on one of Jed's days off. So, whether that's going to the park, sometimes we'll go to a bookstore or we'll visit family. I kind of went through some of this earlier. Um, but usually it's going to the park. Sometimes we'll try to take the kids on a little hike. Or even just like going out and walking around our neighborhood and enjoying the nice weather. And on those days as well, like going to see family and doing outdoor stuff with them too is also really refreshing. And then Jed and I have our movie nights twice ish a week, once, twice ish a week. Which I talked about that a little bit in not last episode, the episode before that. And yeah, that's usually pretty reliable. And sometimes we'll have evenings where our like workout days will line up, but then it's movie night also. So we'll be like working out with the movie on, like in the living room, just to kind of like,
Super Monstone.
yeah, honestly. And then yeah, and then we also do the penny reward system, which if you haven't heard of that, it's something that was uh I guess coined by Abby Halberstadt. And so the boys earn pennies and they can exchange them for things like um treats or stay up late night, or I forgot what else we have on the board. It's like sitting right in front of me and I literally can't even see it. So one of the things that they can exchange for is stay up late night, which is once a week. And most of the time they'll do movies. But there have been other times where we've done like stay up late night and do puzzles or board games. So we have that once a week as well, as long as they have pennies that they can actually exchange for it. And sometimes they don't always have enough, but they try to save up their pennies because they love stay up late night.
How do they earn their pennies, Marcella?
So they earn their pennies by essentially going above and beyond what's expected of them. So if we see something like, you know, Seth going out of his way to help one of his little brothers with something, or if one of them has had an exceptionally good attitude about a task that we know they don't really like, or I'm trying to think what else. It's things like that. Yeah, being extra kind, extra helpful, um having good attitudes about, things that are hard or challenging. Yeah, going out of their way to, be a service to others. And I don't know. You kind of have to customize it to each kid.
Yeah, whatever their specific needs are.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
That's awesome. Cool. So let's move into our current evening routines. So usually we'll have dinner around between 5 and 5:30. It used to be later in the evening, but I realized that when we have dinner later at night, everything kind of pushes further into the night, and we like to be asleep, like asleep, not in bed, asleep between 10 and 11. It doesn't always happen. Sometimes I'm up past that time. But usually when we eat dinner earlier, it's a lot easier for us to go to bed earlier. So after dinner, we usually clean up dinner, and my husband is very gracious, and often he will help me clean up dinner, or he'll clean up all of it, which is not expected of him. I always plan and anticipate, unless I have a very particular hard day, then I will actually ask him, like, do you mind helping with cleaning up dinner? But it is not expected of him. I am still on the clock. And so I will usually clean up dinner unless he offers to. And then after we clean up dinner, we do family worship. And then we start our 3-hour night. And these are, again, the nights that we're home. So Wednesday night, when we have Wednesday night prayer meeting, we do not do our 3-hour night. Tonight, I'm recording with Marcella. So we may do a type of a 3-hour night, but my first hour is essentially happening now. So usually the first hour will happen at 7, the second hour at 8, and then the third hour at 9. And the first hour is us finishing or doing our own tasks for the evening. So for me, it often looks like finishing up any housework, feeding my sourdough starter, brain dumping and planning for the next day. And then sometimes it's like taking care of like a hygiene or like maintenance thing for me that I've been putting off. Like, for example, a couple days ago, I just like gave myself a low key mani pedi. It was very like my painting job was very crude. It wasn't good. I did my best, but it was something that I had been putting off. And I have a bad habit of like picking my skin on my face and picking like hairs off of my face. So when I have nail polish on or when I get a manicure, it's a deterrent because I don't want to mess up my nails. And it also like just physically stops me if I keep my nails shorter. So it needed to be done. And also my toes, you guys, were struggling. So I just did a full a full on maintenance night. Like
The
Marcellus,
dogs, man.
they were barking. Man, every girl knows, you know, there's just seasons in life where your feet are just
You're not getting the best care.
yeah, they're like the last thing we think about sometimes. Anyway, so I used my hour, my like productive hour in the evening to do that like on Tuesday. And then another night I did like a full like gua sha, like hair washing, just like vibes, like music, red light therapy, like the whole thing. Is Jen listening to our podcast?
He There was a crisis like 2 minutes ago.
What is going on?
My tablet went from 5% to 1% in literally 30 seconds flat. And I texted him just now and was like, "You need to bring my charger pack right now." So he just came. My tablet is literally at 1% right now. It's just sitting
The
at
one that you're
1%.
recording on? Oh my gosh, Marcella, you're crazy. You let this happen way too often. I don't understand.
Okay, you know what? My tablet was charged, but of course tonight was stay up late night, like I was talking about. And so Seth was watching his movie on my tablet in our room, and I thought he was going to be watching on the TV, but then plans changed and he needed to be on the tablet in my room. So it just drained all the battery. And of course, it was right before we were recording.
Oh my gosh, what a nightmare.
Anyway,
Anyway, sorry, I
we're
was really
fine now.
distracted. Everything's fine. Crisis averted. All that to say, when usually what Ryan does in the first hour of productivity or, you know, our own thing that we do at night, he usually focuses on a website he's working on, like basically any extracurricular coding or programming project that he's working on. Like right now, he's been working on our church's website for like months. And he feels like the pressure that he needs to get it done because he put it off for a while and now he's like, go time. So he's been doing that, which is great. He's probably doing it right now, honestly, while we're recording. And then after our hour is up and 8 hits, then we start our marriage hour. And that looks different depending on the season of life that we're in. But right now, we've been playing, like I said a couple weeks ago, we've been playing Little Nightmares. We still have not beaten it. We are very close. I feel like it's close, but we're playing a video game together and it's been fun. And we also, you know, yell at each other, or it's all in good fun. It's just crazy when you're playing a video game that's really intense, you know, tensions are high and you think you know how to beat the level. And Ryan and I are both very, very competitive, but we always try to remind each other, like, we're doing this to bond and spend time together. It just like ends up like crazy. But it's so fun. We love it. And we're already making plans for what we want to do when we finish this game. So it's like fun. We can always like count on this like hour for 3 or 4 times a week that we can have like almost a low key, very short date night, you know. And then I have a lot of ideas in my 3-hour night bonus episode for things that you can do in your marriage hour. And then the 3rd hour is usually very like time to get ready for bed, time to slow down, turn off all the overhead lights, put the red light on, put low lights on, get ready for bed. And I have been in a vicious cycle probably since I was a teenager where I need the TV to fall asleep. It's a very bad habit. Marcella has chastised me time and time again over it because she doesn't even have a TV in her bedroom, and I have a TV in like every room in my house. And but when we do our 3-hour night and we're consistent with it, I also do my night menu routine, which I also have on Patreon. I have a blog. I also have a printable. And my night menu is a way that I can pick things to help me relax that isn't TV. And I've been choosing to read, and I'm reading the 100 Cupboards series by N.D. Wilson. I'm on the second book called Dandelion Fire, and I'm already halfway through, and I just started it like on Monday because I just have been reading it every night. And it's like a chunky book. I think it's 460 pages or something like that. But I'm already past 200 pages now, and I wouldn't have been able to read it if I was watching The Office to zonk out. So again, I go through these ebbs and flows. Usually I'll be in a really good habit of like reading before bed or just like laying in bed and forcing myself to like relax. Like just relax, don't be on your phone, chill out. But then the slightest inconvenience and the TV's back on every night, and I'm like, I need it every night. So I don't know why. Something must have happened to me when I was a teenager that made me like my brain like needs the stimulation to go to sleep. But I'm trying. I have been able to in the past. We've had many, many times in our marriage where we had no TV on at night and I'm able to sleep fine. It's a mental thing for me. Like I have to just calm down, relax, and force myself to be alone with my thoughts. So that's why when I do the productive hour in every night, I brain dump like every thought, like anything that I'm worried about that's coming up, anything that I need to do the next day that I'm worried about that I can't remember. I just dump everything. That way I can be like, okay, I have done all the thinking I can do today. I'm not going to lay in bed and ruminate over things that I'm worried about that I'm going to forget. So that's why I have that specific, routine. So that's been going well this week, reading in bed. And I've been able to sleep just fine, of course, without the TV. And Ryan always reminds me, like, see, like you can do it. You can do it. You don't need the TV. And then I'm like, yeah, I'm doing so good. This is so great. But you guys, the second I get sick again, it's going to creep up. And then I'll have to do this all over again. But it's okay because one day I'd like to not ever go through this pattern again. I just think that one day it's just, I won't ever need the TV at night and it'll be great. Anyway, then I go to bed. Yay. That's it. Marcella,
That's your
what
whole
do you
day.
do for your evening routine?
Okay, so let's see. Dinner, hobby. We do cleanup, which always takes a while because dinner is usually like the most elaborate meal of the day, and so it's
Yeah.
always way more dishes than the rest of the day. So sometimes I'm doing this on my own, depending on if Jed is working late, but usually if he's home, I'm doing that while he's like getting the kids ready for bed or whatever. And then sometimes, like for family worship, we'll do that during dinner, and then other times we'll do it after dinner, after things are cleaned up and right before we get the kids ready for bed, and then we do the kids' bedtime routines. Can't talk. It's 10 o'clock at night over here. Get the kids to bed, and then after they're in bed, usually we'll do like one of a few different things. So Jed will either go outside and smoke. He's really into cigars. And I'll put something on TV and I'll fold laundry, or sometimes I'll go for a walk while he's outside. Um the first time I wanted to go for a walk when it was like super dark out, I was like, the kids were in bed. I was like getting my shoes on, and he was like, "Where are you going?" And I was like, "I'm gonna go for a walk." And he was like, "No." He He was like, "No, you're not." He was like, "It's very late and it's, like, pitch black outside." And I was like, "It's so nice." Like, it was one of the evenings where it was really starting to get cool, and, I was like, "I'm just gonna go walk around the neighborhood, like, it'll be fine." He was like, "No, no." Was like, "If you don't walk, you could stay on our street, and then I'll smoke outside where I can see you and make sure you're okay." I was like,
Oh my gosh, it's so
"Okay."
cute. Yes, sir.
So, yeah, we're in a cul-de-sac, thankfully, so we get hardly any traffic down our street, so I'll just I'll walk, and sometimes he'll be outside smoking, or sometimes he'll join me, like, if he's finished early or whatever. Um, and during that time, like, I'll listen to an audiobook, like I was saying, I feel like that's such a good time to listen to, like, a Puritan work that I'm going through because it's nice and quiet, there's no distractions, and I can actually focus. Because I feel like those kinds of books are more, um you definitely have to concentrate more on them and focus more, like, it's not something you can, like, passively listen to like a
Yes.
podcast. Like, a
Yeah.
podcast, I feel like I can phase in and out, and I'm not
Mhm,
gonna, like, miss a whole lot, but I feel like with books like that, I have to be, like, locked in,
mhm. Oh
and
my
that's
goodness.
really
Really super quick side
yeah.
tangent. So I've been reading a Puritan, Cotton Mathers. I've been reading his book, The
Mm,
Invisible. Uh, wait, something something about the invisible world. Now I can't remember. Oh my gosh, hold on. I'm gonna open my Goodreads really quick. I promise it's gonna be very The Wonders of the Invisible World. Goodness gracious. Okay, so it's the account of the Salem witch trials,
oh, yeah,
which
yeah, yeah, yeah,
he was
yeah.
involved in.
Yeah.
Um, I'm doing a deep dive. I've been doing a deep dive in and out of my life for years, but I'm still not settled on what I think about everything. But I've been listening to it on Sundays when I'm getting ready for church. And you
Mhm.
guys, I'm like, if I think I missed something, I'm like, "Oh, no," and then I have to go and rewind,
Yes.
like,
Yeah,
15
exactly.
minutes, and I'm like, I cannot, like, let my mind, like, wander
I know.
when I'm listening to a Puritan because sometimes it's, like, dry, and then they'll say something, like, big or, like, something really
Right.
rich, and I'm like,
Yeah,
"No,
and
I missed it.
yeah,
Go
and they, like, throw it in, like, so slyly, and you're like, "Wait, wait, 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 wait. I
I
think
need
that
to
was
go
a really
back."
important point."
Yes. Yes, so I completely understand what you're saying, like, I
Yeah.
cannot do that while I'm doing other tasks, like, I have to be,
No.
like, focused in when I'm listening to a Puritan book, so
Right,
anyway,
yeah.
continue.
Yeah, yeah, so usually, like, things like that, I feel like doing walks in the evenings, when I can be by myself and not talking to anybody and nobody's talking to me, I can really, like, lock in on what I'm trying to listen to. So I definitely utilize that time for doing audiobooks that are more, like, of a heavier read, I would say. Or I'll work on a handicraft, so I'll, like, work on a crochet project, or, or I'll read if I don't wanna put something on the TV or go for a walk or whatever it may be. Anyway, so there's that option, which is option A, and then option B is Jen and I will work out together, which happens, a couple of times a week. And then option C is we'll do more cleaning up and tidying if it didn't all get done earlier. So sometimes if there's just like an exorbitant amount of dishes that we need to get through, or it was an extra messy dinner, or baths take longer, or whatever it may be. With the kids, I mean, not with us.
Oh, oh.
Then, or, laundry, whatever it is. Like, sometimes there are just days where it's like you really have to, like, catch up on some of that housework, and that will take some time in our evenings too. Or we have our movie nights, which we do twice a week. So, yeah, that's kind of like the middle of our nights after the kids go to bed. it's usually one of those things. And then we'll have that odd evening of like, we'll go out. My mom will come and watch the boys, and Jen and I will go out for a date. And then usually last thing in the evening, I will quickly prep something like throwing together dough for the next day, or I'm feeding my ferments, so my sourdough starter or my milk kefir, and getting those going so that they can do their thing overnight while I sleep. Because I still want my kitchen to be working for me while I'm not. Anyway, and that's pretty much it. It's nothing crazy. I also just lost you.
I'm
on video.
here. My video is just gone. Which is a perfect
Well, I
way
guess
to end
I
our
guess this
episode.
is it. Yeah. She's out, guys. She's
It
peeked
is
out.
time for me to start my marriage hour in my 3-hour night, apparently. Which will start with,
man.
why did my phone stop working? Anyway, guys, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm so sorry to the YouTube watchers.
I'm
That
still here if you can see me.
Yeah, you can still see Marcel, but not me, apparently. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining us as we went through this 2-part series about our personal and family rhythms. We hope that you were inspired. We hope that this wasn't too boring. We hope that you enjoyed our mundane habits and routines that change with different seasons of life. And we are excited to talk to you guys next week about another topic. See you guys next time. Bye.
Bye.